Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Today's story is about a man who never thought that a simple gesture could change his life forever. A billionaire, a man who had everything, wealth, success, and power, was about to learn that sometimes the greatest things come from the most unexpected places. Now, let's go back to our main character, Sarah. A simple mistake had brought her into Liam's world, but what she didn't know was that it would change both of their lives forever. Would you have reacted the same as Sarah? Would you be as brave to own up to a mistake even when it could cost you everything? Stay tuned as we dive deeper into their unexpected journey together. After their first meeting, things began to feel different for Sarah. She had come to Liam's office that day, thinking it was just another mistake she would have to fix, but it turned out to be much more. Liam had been calm, understanding, and surprisingly kind. It was nothing like she had expected from a billionaire CEO. And now, as she stood in her small apartment later that night, she couldn't stop thinking about him. The way he had listened to her, the way he didn't look down on her like so many others did. There was something about him that felt genuine. But Sarah quickly shook off the thought. She had more important things to worry about than a man she just met. Her life was already complicated enough, and she didn't need to be distracted. The bills were piling up, the apartment was starting to feel even smaller, and her dream of one day opening her own art studio felt further out of reach with every passing day. She couldn't afford to get caught up in fantasies. The next morning, Sarah was up early, getting ready for work. She pulled on her apron, took a deep breath, and prepared for another long shift at the small cafe she worked. Had to make ends meet. As she stepped out the door, she glanced at the sketchbook on her desk, a reminder of the dreams she had, the life she had always wanted, but hadn't yet achieved. Later that afternoon, Sarah was rushing around the cafe, taking orders, refilling coffee cups, and keeping up with the constant flow of customers. It was a busy day, as usual, but it felt different today. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but she felt an undeniable shift in her energy. Maybe it was the thought of Liam from the night before that had somehow lingered, or maybe it was just the exhaustion from working double shifts, but she felt like something was about to change. As the shift came to a close, Sarah wiped down the tables, her thoughts drifting back to the encounter with Liam. She never expected someone like him to be so normal, not like the others she had met in her life, who only cared about power and status. Liam had looked at her as an equal, and she found herself wondering if he had noticed something in her too. Just as she was about to clock out, the bell above the cafe door jingled, signaling the arrival of a new customer. She turned, ready to take their order, but froze when she saw who had walked in. It was Liam. He was standing in the doorway, dressed in his usual polished suit, looking like he had just stepped out of a magazine ad. "Liam," Sarah said, her voice a little shaky. "What are you doing here?" Liam smiled a little sheepishly. "I came to get a cup of coffee. I figured I should support the place where my employee works, after all." Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. The fact that he knew where she worked wasn't surprising. He was a billionaire, after all. But hearing him speak so casually, as if he wasn't this powerful man who ran a tech empire, made Sarah feel a little more at ease. He wasn't the intimidating figure she had imagined. "Well, we do have the best coffee in town," Sarah said, trying to mask her nerves with a smile. "What can I get you?" Liam sat down at the counter and ordered as usual. "I'll have the black coffee, please. No sugar, no cream." Sarah went to prepare his coffee, but her mind was racing. Why was he here? Was he just being nice, or was there more to this meeting? Was he here to talk about the mistake she made? She tried to push the thoughts aside and focus on the task at hand. But as she handed him his coffee, their eyes met, and she felt a strange pull, like there was something between them that neither of them could deny. "Thank you," Liam said as he took the cup, his eyes lingering on her for a moment longer than usual. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, about making things right. You don't have to worry about the project. It's already been sorted out." Sarah blinked in surprise. "You fixed it?" Liam nodded. "I did. I knew it wasn't your fault. It was an honest mistake." He paused, his gaze softening. "But I think we should talk more. Not about work, but about Well, everything else. His words caught Sarah off guard. What did he mean by that? She wasn't sure what to say, so she just nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. The conversation shifted, and before she knew it, they were talking about art, about her passion for painting, about life beyond the walls of the cafe and the office. It wasn't long before the cafe closed, and Sarah was getting ready to leave. Liam stood up, tossing a few bills onto the counter. "I'm glad we could talk," he said, his voice sincere. "Maybe we could do this again sometime." Sarah smiled, a genuine smile this time. "I'd like that." As Liam walked out the door, Sarah watched him leave, her mind spinning. She wasn't sure where this was headed, but something about that conversation had felt different. For the first time in a long while, she felt like maybe, just maybe, her dreams weren't so far out of reach after all. Would you have been as surprised as Sarah when Liam showed up at her cafe? Sometimes, the people we least expect can change our lives in the most unexpected ways. Stay tuned as we follow Sarah and Liam's journey, where the line between fake and real becomes harder to distinguish. It had been a few days since Liam's surprise visit to the cafe, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Her life felt different now, though it wasn't just because of the chance encounter with Liam. It was the way he made her feel seen, as if for the first time, someone outside of her circle had acknowledged her beyond her role at the cafe. And though she tried to brush it off as nothing more than a fleeting connection, she found herself looking forward to the next time she'd see him. Sarah was at the cafe again the following week, working the late shift when the bell above the door jingled once more. She looked up, her heart skipping a beat as she saw Liam walk in, this time dressed more casually in a button-down shirt and jeans. He smiled at her, his eyes warm. "Hey Sarah," Liam greeted, walking up to the counter. "How's your night going?" He was holding a small bag of what looked like takeout food. "Busy, but the usual," she replied with a smile. "What can I get for you today?" Liam hesitated for a moment before placing the bag on the counter. "Actually, I was wondering if you'd be interested in joining me for dinner. I know it's a bit unexpected, but I thought we could talk. Outside of work, of course. No business. Just us." His words were genuine, and for the first time, Sarah could see a different side of him. He wasn't the CEO here. He was just a man asking her to spend time with him. Sarah blinked, surprised by his offer. "You want to have dinner with me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam chuckled, clearly sensing her shock. "Yes, I do. I've enjoyed our talks, and I think there's more to both of us than we've shared so far. What do you say?" He gave her an easy smile, though there was a hint of uncertainty in his eyes. Sarah felt a sudden rush of emotions. She was taken aback by the idea, but also curious. She hadn't had a meal with someone outside of work in ages, and the prospect of spending time with Liam, someone who seemed to genuinely care, was tempting. But still, she hesitated. Was it too soon? Was this just some weird power play? She looked at him for a moment longer, considering. "Okay," she finally said, her voice steady. "I'll join you." Her heart was racing, but she couldn't deny that she was intrigued. Something told her this wasn't just another dinner. This could be the start of something completely unexpected. Liam smiled, his eyes lighting up. "Great. I know a little Italian place nearby. I'll pick you up in an hour," he asked. Sarah nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness as she went about finishing her shift. She couldn't believe this was happening. Just a week ago, she had never even met Liam. Now, she was about to have dinner with him, away from the formalities of work and business. It was a strange but exhilarating feeling. When the hour finally passed, Sarah found herself waiting outside her apartment, her heart pounding. She had changed into a simple dress, trying to make herself look put together without overdoing it. When Liam pulled up in his sleek black car, she couldn't help but feel a little out of place. He was a millionaire, after all. What did she have to offer someone like him? Liam stepped out of the car and walked over to her, offering her a smile. "You look beautiful," he said, surprising her with his sincerity. Sarah smiled, her nerves easing slightly. "Thank you," she said quietly, getting into the car. As Liam drove them to the restaurant, they chatted about simple things, his favorite movies, her favorite books, and for once, Sarah felt like she could relax. There was no pretense, no expectations. Just two people enjoying each other's company. At the restaurant, the ambience was cozy, with soft lighting and gentle background music. Liam had already made reservations, and they were seated at a quiet corner table. The conversation flowed easily as they enjoyed their meal. They talked about everything and nothing. Sarah shared stories about her life, her dreams of becoming a painter, and the challenges she faced trying to make ends meet. Liam, in turn, talked about his work, his family, and his own struggles with finding meaning in his success. It felt different from anything Sarah had experienced before. She had never been on a date with someone like Liam, someone who listened to her without judgment, who genuinely cared about her as a person, not just as someone working a job. She felt seen in a way she hadn't in years, and it was both thrilling and terrifying. After dinner, they walked back to the car, and Liam turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "I'm really glad we did this," he said. "I think we both have a lot more to offer each other than we realize. I'd like to do this again, if you're open to it." Sarah smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "I'd like that too," she said softly. As Liam drove her home, Sarah couldn't help but feel like something had changed. Maybe it was the dinner. Maybe it was the connection they had made. But for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful about the future. Maybe, just maybe, there was more to life than the struggle to survive. Maybe there was room for love, too. Would you have been as open to Liam's invitation as Sarah? Sometimes, life takes us down unexpected paths, leading us to people who can change everything. Stay tuned for what happens next in this surprising journey of fake to real love. The days following their dinner felt different for Sarah. There was a lightness in her step, a sense of excitement that she hadn't felt in a long time. Liam had been nothing like she expected. He wasn't just the CEO of a tech empire. He was a man who seemed to care, a man who wanted to know her, who wanted to connect. Each time they met, she found herself drawn more into his world, but also into the quiet, unspoken understanding they shared. There was something genuine about him, something that made her feel special, like she mattered. Sarah found herself thinking about their dinner often. Liam had a way of making her feel like the most important person in the room, despite the world he came from. Their conversations had been easy, natural, and filled with moments of laughter. And now, as she sat in the cafe on another busy afternoon, preparing for her shift, she couldn't help but wonder if what was happening between them was more than just a passing connection. Her thoughts were interrupted when the bell above the cafe door jingled once again. She turned, expecting another regular customer, but instead, it was Liam. He was standing there, looking as confident as ever, but this time, there was a softness to his demeanor that caught her attention. "Hey, Sarah," Liam said with a smile as he walked up to the counter. "Got a minute?" Sarah blinked in surprise, trying to shake the nerves rising in her chest. "Of course, Liam. What's up?" she asked, her voice a little shaky. She had been trying to act normal, but every time she saw him, she couldn't help but feel the butterflies in her stomach. Liam leaned against the counter, glancing around the cafe before focusing his gaze back on her. "I've been thinking," he began slowly, "about everything we talked about the other night, and I realized I haven't really asked you the important questions. What do you want, Sarah? I mean, what do you really want out of life?" The question caught Sarah off guard. It wasn't the kind of question she expected from a man like him, someone who had everything, a man who seemed so confident and sure of himself. But there it was, an honest question about her own dreams, her own desires. She paused, a little stunned by his directness, but also grateful that he seemed to care. She took a deep breath, trying to put her thoughts into words. "I want to create. I want to paint, to open my own art studio. I want to do something that matters, you know? But sometimes, it feels impossible. Like I'm stuck in this loop where I'm just trying to survive. And I don't know how to get out of it." Liam listened intently, nodding as she spoke. His expression softened, and for a moment, Sarah saw a different side of him. The side that wasn't about business, about deals, or numbers, but about understanding. He didn't interrupt her, didn't try to offer solutions. He simply listened. "I get it," Liam said quietly after a moment. "But you don't have to do it alone, Sarah. You've got more potential than you realize. And you deserve a chance to chase your dreams." His voice was sincere, his words almost like a promise. Sarah felt her heart flutter at his words. She had always dreamed of becoming an artist, but her reality had always felt so far removed from that dream. Could Liam really understand? Could he really help? She wasn't sure, but there was something in his eyes that made her believe in possibilities she hadn't dared to consider before. "I appreciate that," Sarah replied softly. "But I don't know if I can make it happen. I don't have the resources, the connections. I barely make enough to get by. She shook her head, feeling a little overwhelmed. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but it just feels impossible sometimes. Liam smiled gently, his eyes filled with determination. Nothing's impossible if you're willing to take the first step. I know it's not going to be easy, but I want to help you make it happen. Whether it's through connections, resources, or just someone to support you, I'm here. We'll figure it out together. His words were like a lifeline to Sarah. She had never expected someone like Liam to offer her this kind of support, especially after only a few meetings. It felt surreal, like she was living in a dream. And yet, as she looked into his eyes, she saw something real, something that made her believe that maybe, just maybe, her dreams weren't so impossible after all. For the rest of the afternoon, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about what Liam had said. Could she really take that first step? Could she trust him, trust this connection they had formed, and let him help her pursue her passion for art? The idea seemed terrifying, but also exhilarating. She had always played it safe, kept her dreams to herself. But now, with Liam's offer hanging in the air, she felt like she had a real chance. As she finished her shift and walked home that evening, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of hope rising within her. Maybe it wasn't just a fantasy. Maybe Liam was right. Maybe she could make it happen. Would you take a leap of faith like Sarah did? Sometimes, all it takes is one person to believe in us, to help us see the potential we've always had. Stay tuned as Sarah takes the first step toward turning her dreams into reality. It had been a week since Sarah's conversation with Liam, and things were beginning to feel like they were shifting in her life. What started as a simple offer to help had become something more, something Sarah couldn't quite define yet. Every time she saw Liam, whether at the cafe or outside of work, she felt like he was offering her more than just resources or advice. He was offering her the chance to truly believe in herself. That night, after their last meeting, Sarah found herself lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts racing. She had never imagined that a simple mistake at work could lead to something like this, a new beginning. It felt like a dream, and yet Liam's words, his sincerity, echoed in her mind. The next morning, Sarah woke up early, determined to take the first step. She pulled out her sketchbook, something she hadn't opened in weeks, and began to sketch again. The lines came easier than she expected, and as she worked, she realized how much she had missed this. Art had always been her escape, her passion, but for so long, she had put it on the back burner, convinced that it would always remain a distant dream. As she finished her sketch, she felt a sense of accomplishment, something she hadn't felt in a long time. The weight that had been hanging over her shoulders, of her financial struggles, of not knowing where her life was headed, seemed a little lighter. She had taken the first step, even if it was just a small one. Later that week, Sarah met with Liam again. This time, they were at a local cafe, one Liam had suggested as a quiet place to talk. As they sat down, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She wasn't sure how to bring it up, but she knew she had to. She was ready to take the next step, but she needed Liam's help. Liam, she began, her voice a little shaky but filled with determination. I've been thinking about what you said, about taking the first step, and I think I'm ready to do it. I've been working on my sketches, and I want to pursue this. I want to open my own art studio. I don't know where to start. How do I even begin? She looked down at her hands, her palms suddenly sweating. She had never been one to ask for help, but now, she needed it more than ever. Liam looked at her, his expression softening as he listened to her. Sarah, he said, his voice calm, I'm really proud of you. You've already taken the hardest step, believing in yourself. I think the next part is about making it happen. You have the talent, and you have the drive. What you need now is a plan, and someone to help guide you. And I'm here for that. He smiled warmly at her, and Sarah felt a weight lift off her chest. She took a deep breath, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. It wasn't just the fact that Liam was offering his help. It was the way he was believing in her dream. For so long, she had doubted herself, but now, with Liam by her side, she felt like maybe, just maybe, this was possible. Thank you, Sarah said softly, her voice full of gratitude. I really appreciate it. I guess I've just been so scared of failing. But maybe with your help, I can make it happen. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with hope. Liam nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. I know it's scary, but remember, failure isn't the end, It's just part of the journey. Every successful person has failed at some point. What matters is how you get back up. And I'll be here to help you do that. He paused for a moment before continuing. So, let's make a plan. We'll figure out the details, and we'll start taking action. You're not alone in this. The rest of the afternoon was spent discussing Sarah's goals, her vision for the studio, and the practical steps she would need to take to make it happen. It felt like a dream that was starting to take shape with each passing minute. As Sarah left the cafe that afternoon, her heart felt lighter than it had in a long time. She had a plan. She had a direction. And for the first time in what felt like forever, she had someone in her corner, someone who believed in her. Liam had given her the courage to take that first step, and now, there was no turning back. Would you have been as open to taking a leap of faith as Sarah was? Sometimes, all it takes is a little encouragement and a belief in ourselves to change everything. Stay tuned as Sarah continues on her journey to make her dreams come true. The weeks that followed felt like a whirlwind for Sarah. What had started as a simple conversation about her dreams had now turned into something much bigger. With Liam's help, she was taking real steps toward making her art studio a reality. They met regularly to discuss plans, and Liam connected her with people who could help: artists, business consultants, even a local real estate agent who had helped set up galleries in the city. It was all happening so fast, but for the first time, Sarah felt like she was in control of her future. The cafe was no longer just a job to her. It had become a place where she could connect with people, talk about her goals, and build her network. Liam's support had made all the difference, and it gave her the confidence she needed to push forward. She was no longer just going through the motions of life. She was living with purpose. One evening, as Sarah closed up the cafe for the night, she received a text message from Liam. "I know you've been working hard, but I thought you could use a little break. How about dinner tomorrow night?" The message was simple, but it made Sarah's heart skip a beat. Over the past few weeks, their connection had deepened. What had started as a professional relationship was slowly becoming something more, though neither of them had said anything about it yet. Still, Sarah couldn't deny the growing attraction she felt. The next evening, Sarah met Liam at the restaurant he had chosen, a quiet, intimate spot with dim lighting and a cozy atmosphere. She had dressed casually but still put some thought into it. As she walked into the restaurant, she saw Liam waiting at a corner table, a glass of wine already poured for her. "Hey," Liam greeted with a smile as she approached, standing up to pull out her chair. "You look amazing, Sarah." There was something in his voice that made her feel seen in a way that went beyond physical appearance. It wasn't just a compliment. It was an acknowledgement of her journey, of the hard work she had put in. "Thank you," she said softly, sitting down. "It's been a long day, but this feels like the perfect way to unwind." She smiled at him, feeling the tension in her shoulders ease just by being in his presence. They spent the evening talking about everything and nothing: art, life, their ambitions, and the moments that had shaped them. Liam shared stories of his childhood, of growing up in a family where wealth and expectations loomed large, and how he had struggled to carve out his own path. Sarah shared her own stories of struggle and hope, of the dreams she had kept hidden for so long. As they talked, Sarah realized just how much Liam had become a part of her life. It wasn't just about the business advice he gave or the connections he had helped her make. It was about the way he made her feel, the way he believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. For so long, Sarah had been afraid to take chances, afraid to put herself out there, but Liam had changed that. He had given her the courage to pursue her dreams, and now, she couldn't imagine her future without him in it. After dinner, they walked outside together, the cool night air wrapping around them. As they stood on the sidewalk, Liam turned to her, his expression serious but gentle. "Sarah," he began, his voice soft but filled with sincerity, "I want you to know that I'm proud of you. You've come so far, and I can see that your dreams are starting to come true. But I also want you to know that I'm not just here for your business goals. I'm here for you, for everything. If you ever need anything, not just in your career, but in your life, I'm here." His words hung in the air, and for a moment, Sarah didn't know how to respond. She had always kept her heart guarded, but now, standing in front of Liam, she felt something shift inside her. She looked at him, her heart pounding in her chest. "Thank you, Liam," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know what to say. You've done so much for me already, but hearing you say that, it means more than you know." She hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. I think I'm starting to feel the same way. Liam smiled, a soft, knowing smile that made Sarah's heart flutter. I'm glad to hear that, he said, his voice warm. I know this is all moving fast, but sometimes the best things happen when we don't overthink them. He stepped a little closer to her, his gaze locking with hers. For a moment, they stood there in silence, just taking in the connection they shared. There was no need for grand gestures, no need for words to explain what they were both feeling. It was simple, yet it was everything. Sarah knew that whatever happened next, this moment would mark the beginning of something new, something real. Would you have been as open to a new relationship as Sarah was? Sometimes, the most unexpected connections are the ones that change our lives forever. Stay tuned as Sarah and Liam continue their journey together, navigating the line between business and something deeper. As the days passed, Sarah and Liam's connection grew deeper. They spent more time together outside of business, and with each passing moment, Sarah felt more comfortable opening up to him. They talked about their dreams, their fears, and the things they'd never shared with anyone else. But while their bond was growing stronger, Sarah still couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. A part of her was still holding back. One afternoon, as Sarah was leaving the cafe, she found a message from Liam. Can we meet tonight? I have something I want to talk to you about. Her heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure what it was, but she had a feeling that this conversation was going to be important. That evening, they met at a quiet park near the city. The sun had just set, and the park was bathed in soft golden light. Liam was already waiting for her on one of the benches, his posture relaxed but his eyes serious as she approached. Hey, Sarah said softly as she sat beside him. What's going on? She tried to keep her tone casual, but her heart was racing. She had no idea what Liam wanted to discuss, but she could tell it was something that was weighing on him. Liam turned to face her, his expression a little guarded. Sarah, he began, his voice steady but with a hint of uncertainty. I've been thinking about us, and I want to be upfront with you. I know we've both been taking things one step at a time, but I don't want you to think that I'm just here to help you with your business goals. I care about you. I care about you, not just your dreams of opening an art studio. He paused, as if searching for the right words. Sarah's heart swelled at his words. It was exactly what she had been wanting to hear, though she hadn't been brave enough to ask for it. The honesty in his voice made her feel seen, truly seen, for the first time in a long while. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. I care about you too, Liam, she said, her voice soft but filled with sincerity. But I've been scared. Scared to let someone in, scared to get hurt. I've spent so long focusing on what I thought was important, my work, my independence, but maybe I've been avoiding the one thing I actually need. Maybe I've been avoiding you. She looked down at her hands, feeling vulnerable. Liam reached out, gently taking her hand in his. I understand, he said, his voice full of empathy. And I'm not asking you to rush. We can take this as slow as you need. I'm not going anywhere, Sarah. I just want you to know that you don't have to carry the weight of everything on your own anymore. I'm here, and I'm willing to fight for us. His words were simple, yet they felt like a promise, one that Sarah had longed to hear. For a long moment, Sarah sat quietly, processing everything. Her mind was swirling with emotions, fear, excitement, relief. But most of all, she felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a very long time. Hope. Thank you, she whispered, squeezing his hand. I didn't think I could let anyone in, but maybe I can. She smiled softly at him, her heart full of gratitude. Liam smiled back, his expression softening. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. We'll take it one day at a time. But just know this. I'm in this with you, Sarah. For whatever comes next. He leaned in, his gaze gentle, and for the first time, it wasn't just about business or goals or dreams. It was about the two of them and what they could build together. As they sat there, hand in hand, Sarah felt something change inside her. The walls she had spent so long building around herself were slowly starting to crumble. Liam had shown her that there was more to life than just surviving. There was room for love, for trust, and for connection. What about you? Have you ever felt like you were holding back, afraid to let someone in? Sometimes, it's the smallest step forward that leads us to the most meaningful changes. Stay tuned to see how Sarah and Liam continue their journey together and what comes next in their evolving relationship. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah found herself stepping into a new chapter of her life, one that she never thought was possible. She and Liam had continued to grow closer, and what had started as a business arrangement had blossomed into something far more meaningful. Their connection deepened each day, and with every conversation, Sarah felt more secure in herself and the direction her life was headed. But as much as she felt her walls come down, there was still one thing that lingered in her mind: her art studio. Sarah had spent countless hours sketching, planning, and dreaming, but the reality of opening her own space was a daunting task. The logistics, the finances, the uncertainty, it all seemed overwhelming. But with Liam by her side, she found herself more determined than ever to push forward. He had not only been a supporter, but also a constant source of encouragement. Liam had taken her under his wing in more ways than one, offering advice, resources, and even helping to secure a small loan for her first studio space. One afternoon, as Sarah sat at the cafe, sipping her coffee and going through her sketches, Liam joined her at the counter. He had been quiet lately, his usual confident demeanor replaced by something softer. There was a sense of anticipation in the air as he approached her table, and Sarah felt a flutter in her chest. "Hey," Liam greeted, pulling up a chair beside her. "How's the planning going?" His voice was warm, but there was an underlying seriousness in his tone. Sarah smiled, though she could tell something was weighing on him. "It's going well. I'm making progress, but I still have a lot of questions. The space is coming together, but there's still so much to figure out." She paused, looking up at him. "I'm nervous. I've never done anything like this before." Liam placed his hand over hers, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "I know it's scary, but you're not alone in this. You've got this, Sarah. You've always had this in you. I'm just here to help you make it happen." He leaned in slightly, his expression softening. "And whatever happens, I'll be right here, supporting you every step of the way." The sincerity in his words brought a lump to Sarah's throat. She had never felt so supported, so cared for. It wasn't just the business advice or the financial help that mattered. It was the way Liam believed in her, the way he believed in them. She had started this journey with him as a business partner, but now, she couldn't imagine her life without him in it. Later that evening, Sarah stood in the empty space that would soon be her studio. The walls were bare, the floor dusty, but she could already envision the transformation, the paintings on the walls, the people who would come to create and learn. The studio was a reflection of her dreams, her hard work, and the support she had found in Liam. She ran her fingers along the rough surface of the walls, feeling the weight of the moment. Just as she was about to step outside, Liam arrived, his smile bright as always. "I knew I'd find you here," he said, walking toward her. "How does it feel?" Sarah turned to face him, her eyes filled with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. "It feels real, but also terrifying. I've worked so hard to get to this point, and now it's all coming together. But what if I fail? What if it doesn't work out?" Liam took her hand, holding it firmly in his. "You're not going to fail, Sarah. You've already made it this far, and that's something to be proud of. I'm with you, every step of the way. And even if things get tough, you're not alone. We'll face it together." Sarah looked into his eyes, the weight of his words sinking in. She had always been afraid of failure, afraid of taking risks, but now, with Liam by her side, she realized that failure wasn't the end. It was just a part of the journey. As they stood there in the empty studio, Sarah felt a sense of calm wash over her. The future was uncertain, but with Liam's support and her own determination, she was ready to face whatever came next. This was just the beginning, and no matter what happened, she knew one thing for sure: she was no longer alone. Have you ever faced a moment in your life where you were unsure of what the future held? Sometimes, it takes a leap of faith to realize that we have the strength to move forward. Stay tuned as Sarah continues to chase her dreams, with Liam by her side, every step of the way. The day Sarah had been working toward for months had finally arrived. The studio was ready. The walls were adorned with her artwork, the floors gleamed with fresh polish, and everything was coming together just as she had imagined. The grand opening was tonight, and Sarah could hardly believe it. What had started as a dream, something she once thought was impossible, was now a reality. But as she stood in the middle of the space, taking in the transformation, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and anxiety. She looked around, her heart racing. The place was filled with energy, but there was still a part of her that felt uncertain. What if people didn't come? What if it wasn't enough? She had come so far, but the fear of failure still lingered. Her hands were trembling slightly as she adjusted the final touches on the display. Then she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned around to see Liam standing there, smiling warmly at her. "You've done it," he said, his voice full of admiration. "This place looks amazing, Sarah. I'm so proud of you." His words were like a balm to her anxious heart. She had been so focused on the details, worried about every little thing, that she had forgotten to take a moment to appreciate how far she had come. Sarah smiled, her eyes brightening. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said, her voice full of gratitude. "You've been here every step of the way. I don't think I would have made it this far if you hadn't believed in me." Liam reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "You always had the strength, Sarah. I just reminded you of it when you needed it most." His gaze softened, and there was a depth in his eyes that made her heart flutter. The sound of voices filled the room as guests began to arrive, and Sarah's nerves melted away. People were here to support her, to celebrate this new chapter. As the evening progressed, she found herself talking to old friends, new acquaintances, and even some of the local artists she admired. It felt surreal, like everything she had worked for was finally coming together. But as the night went on, Sarah realized that this wasn't just about the studio. It wasn't just about the art. It was about the journey she had taken, the people who had supported her along the way, and the belief she had found in herself. Liam had shown her that dreams were worth pursuing, that it was okay to take risks, and that failure wasn't something to fear, but something to learn from. As the last guest trickled out of the studio, Liam pulled Sarah aside, his smile full of warmth. "I knew you could do it," he said softly. "This is just the beginning, Sarah. You've only scratched the surface of what you're capable of." Sarah felt a surge of emotion wash over her. She had come so far. She had started with nothing but a dream and a heart full of uncertainty. And now, she had a studio, a future, and someone by her side who believed in her. She knew that there would be challenges ahead, but with Liam's unwavering support and her own determination, she was ready to face them. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "For everything." Liam smiled, squeezing her hand. "You don't have to thank me. I'm just here for the ride. And I'll always be here, no matter what." As they stood there, surrounded by the artwork that now filled the studio, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace. She had taken the leap, she had fought through her doubts, and she had made it. And with Liam by her side, she knew that the future held endless possibilities. Would you take the leap like Sarah did, even when the path ahead seemed uncertain? Sometimes, all it takes is a little belief in yourself and the support of the right people to make your dreams come true. Stay tuned for more stories of courage, growth, and the power of believing in what's possible.